Quest to Succeed, Chapter 26. Jay's room in London was not bigger than the kitchen in New Delhi. Jay's place, however, was close to certain amenities. There was a barber shop, a launderette, a newspaper shop, and a tube station was nearby. The London Metro, or Tube, was known as an underground because so many trains run under the buildings, especially in central London. There were surface stations and the railway track as well. At the beginning, Jay's office was only 3 miles away from his room. He used to travel from his residence to office by bus. The bus service was direct from the office to the living place. The bus used to go through a small town in West London. One day he saw the name of the town on the front of the bus and thought that it was going through the same route. When he reached a new locality, he realized that it was an entirely different location. It was a residential area with a park, large trees and green grounds. The houses were big and beautiful with front gardens. He inquired about the position and discovered that he arrived at a wrong site. He wanted to go through a high street, a shopping centre, and then to Ennington. He was given a choice by the man who helped him. He could go back and take a bus direct to the spot of his residence. Alternatively, he could walk through a local road and take a bus from the high street, or he could take a train from the local station to Ennington. He decided to walk along the road and scrutinize the area. He reached the high street. From there, he took a bus to his residence. After 3 months of working in the department, he was moved to a bigger office. He received a promotion. It was still an office work. The difference was that he had to travel by metro train. From his residence, it took him an hour to reach the office and another hour to return to his room. He always sat near a window in the train compartment, gazing through it and contemplating London from the moving train. He saw beautiful Edwardian houses, which were built at the beginning of the 20th century and had excellent architecture, beautiful front and back gardens with flowers, shrubs, and trees. There was sufficient open space with parks and tall trees in that inner city. He thought that eventually he would like to live in such an area. It reminded him of the open environment of his village in India. Those who migrated from the Indian subcontinent in the 1950s and 1960s told him that up to 2 people lived in a room or 20 in a house. It was not easy to find accommodation in London. They also wanted to save money to purchase their own houses. Later, Jay discovered that in the Bengali community, residents rotated the use of bed. They worked in shifts and slept for 8 hours, then another man would come and sleep in the same bed. Not many families had migrated to England from the Indian subcontinent at that time. Only men came in search of jobs. Their families joined them afterwards. The Indian community decided to settle in Southall, a suburb on the outskirts of West London. Many had jobs at a rubber factory there. A few shops and restaurants were opened for Indians to buy their food supplies. Others could also dine at the restaurants and buy food at shops. Jay never considered living in Southall. It was not convenient to travel to central London from there. Though there was a British rail station, no direct underground train service existed from Southall to central London. He had never worked in an office, yet he settled down well at a government department. He received 2 weeks training. One day he went to see the computer room and was fascinated with the machine. In the 1960s, the computer was exceptionally large and stuck along a wall. It used punched cards. A kind of code was required to work on it. He, however, realized that he could not work on such a machine and would be happy to deal with files and fellows. He continued his commission at the head office. The office was overcrowded. Far more people were employed there than were required. He had an 8-hour duty. He could, however, finish his assignment in 3 hours. There was a tea club. Colleagues made tea themselves rather than to go to canteen. They used to buy buns and butter from the canteen. Jay made some good friends, and he enjoyed his undertaking. The head of department was an elderly lady who was impressed with his moil and attitude. She asked him how he was and did he like the office work. He gave her positive feedback and told her that he was also interested in studies and wanted to attend evening class. She was glad to know that and encouraged him to study. At the end of 1 year, She thought that he should gain experience in other fields and expand his horizon. She transferred him to another section, where he kept records and prepared monthly returns. There were no word processors in offices in those days. It was a routine work which he used to finish quickly, then sit at his desk and read files and books. Sometimes he used to type reports. Jay wrote to his friends in New Delhi about his life in London since he arrived there. He faced some fundamental problems, both financial as well as social. He suffered a few setbacks, but soon he began to feel at home. Life was not a bed of roses for him in this big city. Yet he did not regret in leaving the places where he had spent his childhood and boyhood. He could not make any permanent friends in London because of different ways of thinking and approach in solving problems. He had learned his lesson in dealing with Naresh, Nahar, and Prashant. They all had different attitudes and ways of thinking as well as demands. After 10 months, Jay moved to live in South London, where he lived in a small room on the top floor. A 2-room flat became available on the ground floor. Jay asked the caretaker to keep the rooms for a few weeks because he was expecting his family to join him. He would rent the ground floor rooms, but his family did not arrive soon. The caretaker told him that he could not keep the place for long. The landlord wanted to let these rooms. Jay could not ask for any more extension of time. He was frustrated. After staying alone in London for more than 2 years, his family joined him from India. They all lived in Jay's small room for a week. He asked his landlord if he could suggest an accommodation for his family. The landlord said that his nephew had a big house. He could allow you to live there. The nephew, however, had another property, which he let to tenants. This house was in partnership with his friend, whose family lived in the basement. It was a 4-floor building. Jay's family moved to live on the top floor, 2-room flat in northeast London. In that multi-story house, the family in the basement agreed to look after Jay's children when Reena started a part-time job. They, however, asked the children to play on the stairs rather than in a room or in the kitchen. Jay was not aware of this situation. His children did not tell him anything about that family's behavior. On the other hand, their children used to come to the top floor where Jay and his family lived. They played there and stayed there for hours. Reena used to provide them food as she provided to her children. There was no discrimination. Jay noticed 2 contrasting behaviors by 2 families. The other family did not know that their children were having food at the top floor. They should have shown some culture and good manners. Reena did not care about all this. She was large-hearted and understanding. Jay did not like separate approaches towards his children. This locality had facilities for shopping, school for children, a big library, bus and train service to travel to office. Jay had no problem in going to work. They lived there for 20 months. Jay took his family to visit different parts of London. They went to see the museums, the bridges including the Tower Bridge and the London Bridge, which had a story of its own. A Californian American was keen to buy the famous Tower Bridge because it could be lifted to facilitate the ships moving from and to the London port. He thought that Tower Bridge was known as the London Bridge. He entered a legal contract with the Port of London Authority in order to purchase the London Bridge. The bridge he legally bought was near the British Rail Station. The London Ports Authority dismantled the London Bridge and sent the stones, metal, and other material to the United States. It was a cheating because the American businessman wanted to purchase the Tower Bridge, but legally the British were right. Jay tried to make his family's life as comfortable and as easy as he could afford. He did not ask them how they spent 2.5 years in India without him. Did they encounter any problems or discomfort? He did not even talk about his early life in England. They were keen to purchase their own house. They spent the summer weekends in search of a property. Jay's income did not attract a large mortgage. He kept his savings in his bank. In the summer, they were burgled. The thieves stole their passports, the bank passbook, along with some other belongings. Jay reported the burglary to the police, who came to investigate and took fingerprints, but nothing could be recovered. Jay also informed his bank that his passbook had been stolen in the burglary. The bank manager assured him that it would not be easy to withdraw money from a savings account. By the end of the year, Jay and his family agreed to purchase a house, which they could afford. They received a mortgage offer. On the completion date, Jay needed the money to plunk as a deposit. The balance was a mortgage loan which would come to his solicitor direct from the lending bank, and it would be transferred to the seller's solicitor. His bank, however, told him that he had no money in his account and that the entire sum was withdrawn a few months earlier. On checking the withdrawal date, they discovered that it was the burglary day. The signature on the receipt was Jay's full name, which he did not sign. A fraudulent had withdrawn the money from his savings account. He saw the manager and told him that he had informed the bank about the burglary and that his passbook was stolen along with his passport. He was assured at that time that no money could be withdrawn from his savings account. He needed the money to pay a deposit for his house. The bank manager allowed to withdraw his money, but statements in future months showed it as an overdraft. He went to the police again, but there was no information about the passports, the bank passbook, or the fraudulent. He discussed the matter with a colleague in the office who had become his friend. The friend advised him to write to the bank's head office and explain the whole matter. Jay drafted a letter and showed it to his office friend, who made a few alterations. He typed a letter and sent it to his bank's head office. They solved the situation. The future statements did not show any overdraft. Still, Jay did not like it. He had lost trust in his bank branch. He closed the account there and opened a new account at a different bank. He could never discover who withdrew his money and why the bank could not stop the extraction. The person could not be recognized. There were no cameras in banks in those days. When Jay ascertained that his savings were withdrawn on the day of the burglary, he was staggered and stunned. It made a psychological impact on him. Consequently, he fell sick. He was ill for almost 3 weeks. His family was new in England. They did not know much about the area or the shops. His wife Rena went out in search of special food for him. There was no one to support or help her at the time of need. Jay saw a doctor who gave him medicine, but it took him time to recover. He had fever for days. He could not speak. His voice plunged. He had memory loss for 3 weeks. By the end of the year, however, he started to recover and was fully well in the early days of the new year. He resumed his duties. The house purchase completed in the first week of the new year, and they moved to live in the new home. Jay did not tell anyone that they had bought their own house in a new locality. He simply told his landlord that they were moving to a new place because of nearness of his office. A van man moved their belongings to the new house. That was the only assistance they ever obtained, though they paid for the removal. Nonetheless, they felt obliged.